you very much, Senator Collins. I also know we've been joined by Senator Ossoff, who hosted our field hearing in Georgia. Thank you. And Senator Wicker. Next up, Senator Manchin. Thank you.
Chairwoman Klobuchar, Ranking Member Blunt, my colleague from West Virginia, Senator Capito, and all the members, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present some brief remarks, which have been stated so eloquently before the Electoral Count Act, which I think is one of the most important things we have before us in Congress today, with so many other. As has been said, the Electoral Count Act was originally passed into law in 1887 and was a valiant but clumsy effort, very clumsy effort to ensure that another presidential election like the 1876 contest between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel J. Tilden never happened again. As the members of this committee know, the 1876 election was a disaster. It was absolutely a disaster. Neither candidate received an electoral majority, and multiple states presented serious controversies by submitting dueling slates of electors to even add to the confusion, following an informal deal that was struck with Southern Democrats, that effectively ended Reconstruction. Hayes was eventually named president, but the vulnerability of our democracy was truly revealed. Following two other close elections in 1880 and 1884, and numerous failed attempts at reform, Congress finally passed the Electoral Count Act of 1887. But as we saw on January the 6th, 2021, a lot of the fixes established by the original Electoral Count Act are not merely outdated, but actually serve as the very mechanisms that bad actors have zeroed in on as a way to potentially invalidate presidential election results. As I am sure that you'll hear from the panel of distinguished experts who will testify before you today, the time to reform the ECA is way past due, way past due. The time for Congress to act is now, as Senator Collins just said before this Congress adjourns. To that end, I'm proud of the bipartisan bill produced by Senator Collins, myself, and my colleagues last month, the Electoral Count Reform and Presidential Transition Improvement Act of 2022. I'm particularly thankful for Senator Collins and her leadership throughout the process and for the valuable input from all my colleagues in the working group on both sides of the aisle. And I think it's worth mentioning all of them because they've worked so hard. Senator Portman, Senator Murphy, Senator Romney, Senator Shaheen, Senator Murkowski, Senator Warner, Senator Tillis, Senator Sinema, Senator Capito, Senator Cardin, Senator Young, Senator Coons, Senator Sass, Senator Graham, Senator King, and all of those are co-sponsors. And that's a tremendous. While I will be among the first to acknowledge that the bill is not perfect, it represents many months of hard work and compromise and would serve as a tremendous improvement over the current ECA. As Senator Collins just mentioned in her remarks, the bill addresses what the bipartisan group identified as the most concerning problems with the ECA. It unambiguously clarifies that the vice president is prohibited, and I repeat, it clarifies that the vice president, whoever he or she may be, is prohibited from interfering with electoral votes. It raises the objection threshold by 20%. That would make a shift from a single representative under the current ECA to 87 House members, 87 from one. It also improves on basically only one member of the Senate to 20 must ratify, 20. It sets a hard deadline for state governors to certify their respective states' electoral results. They just can't wait until after the election and before they send their electoral people and make changes. It can't be done. And if they fail to do so or submit a slate that does not match with the electoral results from the state, it creates an expedited judicial process to resolve. On that last point, the expedited judicial procedure, I'd briefly like to take a moment to discuss the reform proposed by our bill and explain why we propose revising the ECA as we did. Our group decided to rewrite Section 5 regarding the certificate of ascertainment of electors, not to create any new causes of action, but to provide for expedited review of an action that a presidential and vice presidential candidate can already bring under existing law. It does so in a way that carefully limits the parties who can avail themselves of this expedited procedure and ensures that the slates of electors and Congress tallies are those certified and appointed pursuant to laws in effect prior, and I remind you, prior to Election Day. While the group is open to some technical fixes to address timing concerns, for example, striking the 5-day notice typically required under Section 2284 of Title 28, we stand by this provision as a way to quickly and efficiently determine a single lawful slate of electors. In closing, I would like to remind you, we were all there on January 6th. That happened. That was for real. It was not a visit by friends from back home. And we have a duty responsibility to make sure it never happens again. So the Electoral Count Reform and Presidential Transition Act, Improvement Act of 2022 is something that our country desperately needs, and the correction needs to happen now. I just want to thank you for the attention, taking this up right now and working in such an expeditious way. And you're going to have some great presenters behind us here who have all the knowledge that we really used for the sources that we did to make this piece of legislation happen. And I want to thank Senator Collins and all those of the members that worked on it so diligently. Thank you.